the next one down is schedule. So this is the employee scheduler. Okay, and in here it will default to the current day, or you can choose any given day, doesn't matter. And in here I've got all this information. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to start at the top and just kind of work our way down, because there's all kinds of information that's in here. So the first thing is, across the top I've got pull-down menus of all the different functions that you can do within here. Now, along with this, I've got, for example, load schedule. Okay, so the load schedule is just what I loaded up, and a schedule is represented by default within that setup as 7 days. Okay. Below that we have as selected, till close, and till open. This all has to do with programming in the hours that are within here. I'll show you that shortly. Modifying and deleting existing shifts for any employee. Also show employee shifts as well. So in here, in terms of all of the details on that particular employee, then it will bring this up, and then from there I can also go into her specific preferences as well. Okay, employee preferences, in which case I have the schedule that was generated within the employee setup for Abby, for example. Now, there are additional ones here that I can show you, but I will come to those momentarily. But right now I just kind of want to get through some orientation on the system. The next one down over here is a window, show active records only, or show inactive records as well, which would be past employees. Also help, online help for all kinds of stuff. We also have programs, which I've got programmed into mine as well. So for external programs, don't worry about these particular things right now. This is an experimental one that we're going to be coming out with shortly. Now, the next one down here is the main taskbar, and on here I've got all of these different commonly used tasks within the system. The first one here is load schedule. Again, so you select on that, load on the desired schedule. The next one is as selected. Now, as selected means that I'm going to set up a work shift down here. And on this, I've got these different tabs. Right now we're working on the schedule tab. And I've got a list of all my employees. Now, if, for example, I wanted Betty Barnes to work from noon until 4 on this given day, then what I can do is I can come over here to noon. There's the noon cell right there for Betty Barnes. And I can select on that, so now it's highlighted. If I do a click and drag, I can now drag across, and so it's now highlighted from noon till 4 for Betty Barnes. Now, at this point, if I come up to as selected and choose this, she is now working a shift. Okay, so I've got her now scheduled to work that shift on this given day. And you'll notice within here, I've got some numbers that changed around as well, both within here and over on the left as well. So we'll talk about those momentarily. I've also got till close and to open. Now, if I was to just kind of scroll to the left a little bit, you'll see here I've got 9 a.m. and from this point on, this is all showing up in white. It's in dark gray over here. And if I kind of scroll across further to the left, you'll see it's all grayed out. Then finally, I'm back to here. Now, at 4 p.m. is, in this case, this is when it kind of stops. So the way I've got this particular scheduling set up on this is that from 4 p.m. on, the establishment is closed. And this is all part of within system setup. I was showing you as far as when it's open, when it's closed, and so on. And so on this, on a daily basis, you can change these around, and you can see as far as when these were open and closed and so on. Remember, I was mucking around with the first one for Monday. Here we have from 2 a.m. until 9 a.m. And so this is the closed time. So when I'm doing an employee here, let's say, for example, to close, so I will do Emma Edwards. I say to Emma, I want you to work from 8 p.m. until close. So I could do a click and drag up to close, or what I can do is just select on that cell and then till close. And it cannot work. Continue, yes. Okay, don't worry about that. And so within there, I now have that showing, and that takes her up to close time. Coming over here as well, over on the left-hand side, then if I say, for example, Darlene, I want Darlene to work from open until 2 p.m. So I can select on 2 p.m. and then to open, and it brings that back. So this way you're working from the earliest time or the latest time, and then working your hours around that particular mode of shift. Okay, we also have modify shift as well. If I select on a shift, then what we can do here is just modify this as well. I just select on it, and then in here I can actually change it within this screen. And I can say, rather than play around with these cells here, I can say change it from 9 a.m. till 7, or maybe 8:45, for example. I can put in something like that. Also, I can change around my dates as well, and and also the type of shift. Okay, it can be there are different types of shifts that you can program in here. Work shift, vacations as well. I can program in vacations. I can put in time off. Work at another store is one that I created myself, this kind of thing. So, but the conventional one would be a work shift. Also wage for that particular shift as well. I can actually change this within here. Just because I've asked her to come in and normally she doesn't, I'm going to offer her $8 an hour for this particular shift. And you'll see now that it's kind of changed across a little bit because I've asked her to come in at 8:45, so it was earlier than 9 o'clock. So I've made a change to that as well. If I just mouse over and then just kind of hold down my button, it also shows just a quick summary of what I've got in there as well. These colored symbols that show up within here reflect the information that was generated within the person's personal schedule. So I'm going to come down here to Gina Jernoma, for example. If I double-click on her name, I can bring up her particular thing, the same as going with her personal schedule. And in this case, I'm going to go into her employee preferences. So Gina has told me that she cannot work these hours. She prefers not to work these hours, and she's good outside of that. And that information is reflected across within here. Okay, so you'll see within the legend that we have down here, cannot work shows up as a red X. Not wanted shows up as a green diagonal slash across. And so this gives you an idea in terms of what their preferences are. Now when I'm putting in a work schedule, for example, I can actually go over top of a cell like that, and if I put on as selected, this shift contains hours during which Gina cannot work. Continue, yes. So what I've done here is I've actually scheduled it nonetheless that I want her to work. Also the same applies over here. I've got a cell that she prefers not to work, but she can if needed be. If I select on this, then it will allow me to program that in as well. Coming down below, we've got green showing up as a shift. Now let's say we want to do a vacation. Okay, so vacation time for Betty Barnes. Okay, Betty, I'll just do a clump here, for example. And within this, I'm going to change the shift type to vacation. And then when I highlight that and use as selected, you'll notice it shows up in red. Now, let's say she's requested time off. I can actually have that show up in here. Requested time off is within the front end. You go into your settings, and then you bring up your schedule, which reflects all this information. And then from there, you can request time off. So let's say Carla, for example, did that. Then actually, it would show up as something like this. Okay, so it would show up in yellow. She has requested time off, or I've given her time off, in which case then it shows like that. And that's reflected across within here as well. Now, I've also created one myself, and I'll show you how to go about creating your own, is work at another location. So within here, let's say I have multiple restaurants, and I'm going to have this employee, instead of work at this store, I'm going to have her work at another store. So I'll come down to Ingrid, and Ingrid is going to work at another store, my sister location, for example. So I'll select on that as selected, and I've got her showing up within here. So this way I know within my scheduler as well that Ingrid is not available to work because I got her at the other location. So that can be reflected in there as well. And now, as we put in this information, let's take a look at what we've got down this main area. First of all, I've got Tuesday, November 6th, okay, which is showing the current calendar date. And this is what I'm doing the scheduling for. Well, actually, it's not November 6th, but you know what I'm talking about. And on here, I can choose next day, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and previous day. Okay, so, and I can go as far back as the first day of that work schedule, which is the Sunday. Remember, I chose that the Sunday was going to be the first day, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then that's it. I can't go any further from there. So that is one work shift that I'm working with, and I can just kind of skip through my days that way. Coming down below that, we have number of shifts per forecast. Now, in this row, you'll see in this row I've got 3, 0, 3, 0, and then 2, 0, 2, 0, 1, 0, and so on. What this is showing is the number of people that I'm actually paying to work within any one of those given hours. Okay, so I know, for example, that I've got 3 people actually working here. This is vacation, this is time off, work, work, work. Even though she's at a different location, I'm still paying her nonetheless on my payroll. So I've got 3 people scheduled here. Now, the forecast of this, what the system does, it looks to the past 3 schedules, previous schedules that you've got. And it will average out, saying that on an average on what day this is, Tuesday at 9 o'clock in the morning. If I had a 3/3, that means I typically have 3 people working this particular hour on this particular day, or at this particular hour within the last 3 schedules. Yeah, it'd be the last, on the last 3 weeks. And so that would be reflected within there, and so it would show 3-3, and that kind of gives me some continuity when I'm doing my scheduling, so I know that on a weekly basis it's generally the same. I've got 3 people at this time, 5 people at this time, 8 people at that time, whatever it happens to be. And so that's what the second number represents within there. You'll notice here I've got a 2, all right, so they're off, she's working, and she's working. Okay, so there's a 2. And over here I've got a 1, being just that one person right there. I don't have anyone else working within the establishment at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, which is not a good thing. Now, the 0 itself will actually correct itself as you use the system. I obviously haven't used this schedule for the past 3 weeks, so there's no averaging for it to work out for me. But if I had been using that, then I would have some valid numbers showing up within here. Now, one thing you can do with this as well, come to this title cell, number of shifts per forecast, and double-click on it. It now changes over to this thing called total wage. So what the system now does is it looks at all of the employee records that I've got within there, and it tells me what my total cost of wages will be on any given shift as well. So in here, because I've got 3 people, 1, 2, 3 working within there, then I've got, they're probably each being paid $8 an hour. So 3 8s are 24, and so I'm paying $24 for those 3 people to work at that time. Whereas at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm paying $18 in wages. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm paying $10 in wages. Okay, so it doesn't work out for Ingrid. Ingrid, I'm paying, I guess, $10 an hour. And so that's how it shows what your cost of wages is within each one of those. Now, coming down below, we've got, obviously, the name of the employee, and it's all sorted by that. I can also do a search on a specific employee's name. I can also show by job position as well, so I can filter down that way. And also within this, we've got my interval. I can actually change it within here as well on the fly. 30 minutes, 15 minutes, 4-hour intervals, that kind of thing. And obviously the shift type that I'll be applying. Now, along with this, we have hours/pref, all right, being how many hours I've got them scheduled to work versus what their preferred hours are. So remember when we went into the preferred schedule and we asked, Abby, how many hours do you prefer to work? So within here she said 60 hours, so that's what we've got. And so far I haven't got anything scheduled for her, so actually I should pack on a few hours for Abby to do that. So now I've got 9 hours scheduled for her, and she prefers around 60 hours a week, so I can give her more time as well. Also, we have her skill set as well. So in here, she's an 8 out of 10, Betty's a 7 out of 10, Carla is a 10 out of 10. Rather than put a 10 in, we just put in a star, identifying that they're a full 10 on here within this. And so again, you can balance out your skill levels utilizing this information here. Now on this, a couple things here. If I want to take a look at a person's schedule, as I showed you here, I can just double click like that, and I've got all of their pertinent information on this given schedule. This information can also show up within the front end as well, and if it does, they can also print it off on the local printer as well. Coming down at the bottom here, we have some summary information as well. First of all, 5 work shifts, 35 hours total so far. Current wages, $261 is going to cost me wage for this particular schedule, $324. All right, it's within the current day versus the entire schedule. Coming over to the right of that, we've got as far as the selected day that I'm working on and the scheduled shift times, the time durations that I'm working with as well. And then, of course, we've got our legend with all the different hoo-ha that's in here as well. And I can skip to the next day and previous day. All right, coming back to this, let's take a look at some other information we've got within the pull-down menu across the top here. So I've gone in here. We can do things like modifying a shift, as I showed you here. Delete shift, we can do that. Show employee shifts, as I showed you here. You can do it this way or just double-click on a name. Now, we've also got shift type setup, okay, which is this right here. Now if I go into here, you'll see that I've got all of these different ones that I've programmed in. Now actually I can create additional ones as well. I just select on the plus sign. You can create a new one. You come up with a color palette. You can give it a new color scheme as well. Is active, active or inactive record, so you can actually remove some of these as well. Can work. This identifies whether it's a work schedule or a non-work schedule, or a paid schedule, non-paid schedule. So for example, time off and vacation, for example, that would be unchecked. But for working at another store, I have that checked. Setup. Take a look at this. You may recall seeing this screen earlier on. So in here, this is where you can also identify within here. You can do the same function. Okay, it's the same screen. You're just doing it from here as opposed to the other location. But in here, you identify as far as what your times are and the week, start, day, and all that other information as well. Template setup, forecast setup. Not yet. I'll talk about those as we get to them. And then print, in terms of print off the general schedule for this. Okay, now, right now we've covered off schedule, okay? And on this, there are different other things we can do. One thing I want to just point out before I move on. When you do a click and drag on something, rather than have to go up and use as selected, you can actually just right-click as well. And you come up with a little sub-menu that allows you to do all this kind of stuff as well in terms of adding the shift or till open, till close, that kind of thing. And also employee preferences in here, so where you can take a look at their preferred schedule as well. So you can access all that kind of stuff just by right-clicking. Now, let's take all this information here and just kind of mentally take note of it. Now I'm going to select on scheduled shift times. Now scheduled shift times shows the same information, only in a slightly different format. It's a little easier to take a look at as well. You'll see within here, for example, I've got Abby Anderson on Tuesday. She's working 9 to 6. Betty is working 12 to 5 on Monday, and Darlene is working 8:45 to 3 p.m. on Tuesday as well. If I want to make any changes to any one of these, I just select on the cell, double-click, and once again, you're brought up with that same window, and you can make your changes conveniently within there. The next one over, if you want to create one, just double-click, and then you can create a whole new one. All right, the next one over is template. Now, template is really a nifty little tool. What this allows you to do is create preset templates and apply them to any given day on a daily basis. And so within here, there's a number of different templates that you can choose from. We've got some that are created by default, plus you can not only set those up, but also you can create your own as well. Let's say, for example, Super Bowl Sunday, or whatever day it happens to be. Let's say I've got some kind of big, massive football game, and I know my place is going to be packed because I got TVs all over the place. The bar is going to be full, and I'm going to be selling chicken wings and beer, until the cows come home. So whatever it happens to be, I can set up actually a schedule specific for an event or for a specific day, as well as my conventional ones here. Now, on any one of these, when you're applying them, what it will do here is allow you to program all the stuff down the left-hand side. For example, what job positions and how many people you will require for each one of them. So you'll see, for example, my clock in and out only, let's say my dishwashers, I'm going to need 2 dishwashers that day. Wait staff normal, I can get by with 1. Cashiers, I'll need 2, and I'll need 3 wait staff normal, for example. All right, so there is all of my staff that I would need for that given shift. Selecting on any one of these will present all of the people who can be applied to them, and you'll see what's currently going on in terms of their work schedules on that given day that you're applying it. So let's say, for example, I come down to my wait staff normal. Here's all my wait staff, and on here I've already got Abby working. She's doing something else, or Betty is on vacation, so I can't really use that. But I want to populate this with other people. So let's say, for example, I've got Victoria. So I can select on Victoria, and I'll select on Add. And there's Victoria within there. I've also got Hannah and Add. Oh, actually, I need to move down to the next one. There we go. All right, let's go back to Victoria. There we go. So now I've got Hannah and Victoria working there. Abby, I've taken that off because I have not selected her. If you want, I can actually put her back on again too. Abby Anderson, Add. So now I've got Abby, Victoria, and Hannah all working within that given shift, whatever it is I've set up for that. And I'll show you where we go about setting that up shortly. But having done that, by doing the programming within here, all that information is then relayed across to this screen here and this screen as well, so that I will have those people showing up with their hours that I programmed within this. And as you can see here, you can kind of scroll across and see what all applies within that given shift. And then I can do that, you know, with my cashiers as well, and so on. Okay, so that's how you go about using the template for that. All right, with all this information in the system, I also have forecast. Now, forecast, what this will do is that this will take, this will forecast employees based on sales totals. And within this, within the setup, and again, I'll show you that shortly. Within here, what the system does is it will go in and actually calculate out all of your scheduling based on sales. Okay, so you'll see here, for example, my actual versus my forecast. And again, bear in mind, I don't have valid data because I haven't really been working with the system as a regular restaurant would to be able to reflect this. But in this information, you'll see within here you got your actual versus forecast time for each one of the job positions and the number of people you've got within each one of them. And then within here, it will base it based on sales. Now, the way it's based on sales is like, let's say, for example, I get $1,000 worth of sales that I typically get on a Wednesday at 6 o'clock at night. What do I normally require for staffing for every $1,000 I do? So I would normally have maybe 2 waiters and a bartender and the kitchen staff, for example. And that would cover that $1,000. Now, if my actual sales that showed up within a Wednesday at 6 o'clock were like $3,000, I would take that number, multiply it by 3 roughly, and that would be my staffing required for $3,000 worth of sales. And if it was $2,500, then it would adjust us slightly, and so on like that. And so what the system does is that it averages out all of these sales figures that have been done over the past X number of weeks on that particular date, on that particular time, and using this information that you programmed within here, say for every $1,000, I need X number of people staffed within each one of these respective job positions. And then from there, that will be brought across and pumped within here, saying this is what you should have for each one of these job positions based on past sales. Now, and then of course you can graph this across as well, and you would have a valid graph, you know, if you had valid data in here. Now, how do we go about setting this up? Well, then we come back into Schedule, and we come down here. First of all, let's take a look at Template Setup. Within Template Setup, you've got all your different templates in here. You can load them up, you can edit, create new ones, and so on like that. And in here, you populate with the job positions and the counts, the number of people you would want within this, and also what the schedule would be. So it doesn't have to be like the full day, for example. You want basically an 8-hour schedule. So on this Tuesday, could have like a morning shift and an afternoon shift, for example, something like that. And just going into the edit, you can choose on the different job positions. There's the head count, and also what time is reflected within that as well. That would all be done in there. You save that, and then you can just load up the schedule into the template, and from there, just fill it up. Also, we have forecast setup. And in the forecast setup, as it said here, the number of employees required per hourly amount of sales. For example, the store requires 2 waitresses per $1,000 and 1 manager per $1,500. So when you're setting this up, first of all, down here, you identify as far as how many people you need within each job position based on what volume of sales. Okay, so for every $1,000, I need 1 cashier. For every $1,000, I need 3 clock in and out employees, staff, that kind of stuff. You can put in any dollar figures you want in here, and this will do the math across based on the actual sales. Now, along with this as well, the forecast period on here, I'm just basing it back on the last 4 weeks, right? But you can take it up to pretty well a year, and it'll just take a little longer to do the forecast. That's all to do all the math. But within here, you say, for example, actually something more along the line of maybe a month or 6 months or something like that would be a lot more practical, where you can say in here, based on X number of weeks, let's say 4, for example, here's all your dollar sales on a per hourly basis, and breaking that down with this math here, then you should have X number of people working out this thing, and that's how you come up with your forecast on that. Also, adjust forecast values. So on this, because I've got Christmas parties coming up, or I've got big football games coming up, or the World Cup, or whatever it happens to be, then actually I can adjust this number as well on a given schedule on a weekly basis, for example. And on this, I may want to say, all right, let's bump it up by another 20% because there will be this special event that's coming on. So you can do things like that. And that is the employee scheduler. Shift rules. Okay, so within here, I've got a shift rule that I've created in here called general meal breaks. Now, when you first get into the system, you will find it looking something like this, okay? It's disabled, and this information will all be blank. To turn one of these on, you basically create a new record, give it a name, and then just enable. And then from here, you can fill in all the blanks. So what are the blanks you fill in? First of all, this pertains to a break versus a meal break, okay? A break is like a coffee break or a smoke break. A meal break is as a meal, where they're actually sitting down and taking time to have lunch, for example, lunch break. Now on this, the settings are the same for all these, except you just set whatever it is you want. First of all, upon enabling it, is this a paid break, yes or no? So this will determine whether when you go on this break, will the time clock continue to function or will it pause until you come off break? Is a manager override required when employee exceeds the break time? So pretty self-explanatory. You had a 20-minute break, you come back in 25 minutes, you try to come off your break and swipe back in, and it says manager authorization required. So it may require that, just so management knows that, hey, you went past your time. Break every X number of minutes and alert this number of minutes before that actual break starts, okay? So, for example, 360 minutes, that's 3 hours, and so, or is that 5 hours? Oh, okay, so much for my math. Anyway, every 360 minutes, then you're due to go on this particular break, and the system will actually notify you that. It'll prompt you for that, hey, you've got this break coming up, and it'll do it 5 minutes before that break is actually due, just to make you aware of it. Minimum duration required. Okay, so within this, what is the time period? How long is this break? So you can take it anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes. Okay, so it's a 30-minute break. Typically, I want you back in 30 minutes, no less than that. If it is, then it may require manager authorization to do that. Up to 45 minutes. If you exceed the 45 minutes, it's going to prompt you probably for manager authorization as well. So you can set the parameters of that particular break. All right, coming down below that, as far as waiving the break, because sometimes it just gets so busy and people just say, you know what, I don't have time for a break, I'll take it later or something like that. Then actually, based on your state tax laws, for example, you may or may not be allowed to do that. So, not allowed. Yes, it's allowed, but with manager authorization. Yes, it's allowed, and without manager authorization. So you can determine whether to allow that or not. The same with taking the break early as well. It's not allowed, or yes, with manager authorization, and your break remains at its regular time. Yes, you can break in early with manager authorization, and your break will be canceled. So if you do it early, then that's it. You're not taking 2 breaks. Also, yes, without manager override, and the break remains as well. So you can do it without manager authorization as well. Also over here as well, alert employee on login. So within here, if you select on this, then you may want to show as far as the following message that may show up. Okay, if you have this unchecked, then this message, no, I'm sorry. This pertains to alert the employee on login that they are on time clock with a break applied to it. This one here applies to this message that will show up when they first clock into the system. And on here you can put anything that may pertain to whatever their tax laws or their state laws are pertaining to breaks and so on like that. And if there's any form of legality that's required for it, that they need to be officially notified, kind of like the warranty or fine print or something like that. One of those things you never read but you kind of agree to, you can put that information in there. Also, additional options, overtime warning as well. So warn them when they're coming up on 8 hours within the day, that they're coming up on overtime. All right, and how are we? Collaboration. Okay, so I've got time for a couple of quick things here. Collaboration. Within here, if I want to turn off collaboration within this back office, the easy way to do it is just select it right from here, and that actually turns it on and off. Just so that gets to be annoying. All right, I'm going to skip over cache management because this is the whole thing about inventory of cache, and there's a lot to it. So I'm just going to come down to contests. We'll set this up, and then that will be it for this session. So within contests, what you can do within PixelPoint is you can program staff or employee contests to kind of give them a little incentive to kind of push certain things. So you'll see within here I've got one created called Most Desserts. Whoever sells the most desserts gets something. And so within here, first of all, we give the contest a name, Most Desserts. Okay, now this Most Desserts, how is it going to calculate? Well, it can be on a daily sales, weekly sales, monthly sales, or within a date range. And on this, you can identify what the date range would be. Now, over on the right-hand side, this is where you select the scope or criteria that you're going to be applying to this. First of all, we got products. So within here, I can identify specific products that I may want to identify as being monitored on this. Now, let's say, for example, I'll come down. Actually, I might have something in here. All right, I'll just grab one here. Let's say Greek salad. So Greek salad is considered a dessert. So I'm going to select on this. Now, no points, this is contest points, have been assigned to this item. Would you like to set some points right now? I'll say yes. And so for every salad that I sell, I get 5 points. Okay, so that way when Leslie's selling Greek salads, I'm selling Greek salads, and we're taking part in this contest, then if she sells more than I do, then she wins the contest. And so you can do this on a per item basis within here. Also, we have categories. And here you'll see I've chosen the report category of desserts. Okay, so rather than do individual items, you can do everything within a report category, which I've done within here. So every real dessert that I choose, then it will be 10 points. Now, this will be overwritten on this one. If a Greek salad happens to be a dessert, then 10 points for all these, but only 5 points if it's on that dessert. So the product one will override the report category one if the item is also within that report category as well. And also we have job positions. And within job positions in here, you can identify which job positions apply to this particular contest. And so on here I can identify which ones would apply to it and which ones would not. Now, within any one of these selections as well, we also have, first of all, select. Okay, so obviously that, and then you want to select a new one. You can do that. Change points as well. So I choose on this, and I change it from 5 points to 7 points. Also remove it. Okay, the Greek salad, that's kind of dumb in the dessert contest, so I'll just remove it, and it's out of there as well. And also remove all if I had a whole bunch of different items. And then a brief description as far as this particular contest as well. Coming over to the Advanced tab. Contest runs all day. Now, if I don't select this, and I can have it say, for example, all the desserts sold between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. So I can put in a time factor like that. Or I can just have runs all day. Down below that, we also have show the top, right? And then in here I can show, let's say, the top 3 employees. So if I got 30 employees in the system, I don't necessarily need a list of the ranking of every employee who's taking part in this contest. Just show me the top, 2 or 3 who are doing the best in this thing. So that way, whenever someone goes into your settings and contest, they can take a look at what the status is and see if they are within the top 3 on that. If it's set to 0, then it will show all employees. Down below that, we have hide other employee product quantities sold. Okay, so within here, if there's any other stuff that applies within that given transaction, you really don't want any of that stuff. Just focus specifically on what's in here, because I may have a contest running for cheeseburgers and another one for coffee, for example, and you don't want all of them tripping over each other. So just hide other employee products, any other quantities and so on like that if they're associated with other contests. Show employees with points only. So, for example, I've sold a few salads, but Leslie has not yet. So, if I do have show everyone on the system or show the top 10 and only 5 of those people have actually sold anything, then just don't show me the people with zeros. Just a little bit of dignity here. And then disable editing once the contest starts. So if I select on this now and I save this, then if anyone went in, tried to go in and change any of these settings within here, they couldn't do it without unchecking that little box right there. Okay, if you uncheck it, then it will allow them to change it. But if they have a lower security level than myself, okay, it will require manager authorization in order for any of those changes to be made within the back office. So pretty well, once I select on that, it's locked into place.